Hi, it's Beth. This video is a yoga remix practice. So I've taken some of my older videos, remastered them, and put them together in a new sequence to give you an all-standing yoga practice. All you will need for this practice is your yoga mat, and some of the poses I do next to a wall, so make sure to have a wall nearby as well. Comment to tell me what you think of this practice. I hope you enjoy it. Find your mountain pose. So we find our stability just like we did on our knees when we stand up. This is our solid Tadasana mountain pose, our strong position. And then for mountain, we're going to do a very similar lateral flow that we just did on our knees. So left arm up, reach up, slide down the opposite side. Other arm up as I breathe in, and then I'll slide down in the other direction. So you can continue to raise both arms up in the middle if that feels right to you. I'll do a few rounds like that, reaching tall as you get to the middle, flowing down. Or you can take less of a pause there and flow back and forth. And you can reach down, or maybe it feels good to do sort of a little S-curve shape with the arms. We're looking for a flow and a lateral or side bending movement of the spine. So if you're flowing and side bending, you're doing this absolutely right. It's morning here. This is a nice morning practice because we're moving the spine in all four directions: forward, back, lateral, side bending, and then twisting. So I'm going to do one more to the other side. Float my arms down. For this next position, a little bit of a standing twist, I like to have my feet a little wider than hip width, like you're more of a strong, stable mountain base. You can keep yours closer together if that feels right to you. That's just where I like this position. I'll take the hands a little bit out from the body for this and soften my knees. Sometimes I like to shake a little bit to make sure my knees aren't locked. And we'll do a twist here. So twist to your right, and then to your left. And I'm keeping my fingers a little away from the body as if my fingertips were skimming over the top of water. So you can think of yourself of standing in a pool or a beautiful lake and allowing your fingers to skim across the water. And then perhaps you make that move a little bigger. Perhaps when you twist to your right, you lift the opposite left heel. Same thing when you go to the other side. Perhaps it feels better for you to keep your hip points facing forward and just move the torso, the upper body. So you can decide how big of a twist you need, whether this is this morning as it is for me, or whether it's some other time of day for you. Perhaps you take this into a little bit more of a Tai Chi movement where you gently knock against the back and the shoulder. That contact of hand on body can sometimes assist us with energy movement and release. So you can try that and see how it feels for you. Or you can keep the fingers skimming over the top of water for a few more rounds. If as you're warming up more, it feels good to go a little faster, that's fine too. But know that the goal is not to go fast. The goal is to be fluid in whatever pace you choose. Let's do one or two more each side. And then float back to the center. So where do you feel most strong, most solid in your mountain pose? Perhaps it's more here. That's fine too. In the stand strong practice, we'll be combining holding the standing postures for a little bit of time There's been research into yoga that shows that when standing postures are held for 30 seconds or more, they can actually help increase bone density. So we'll try to hold our standing postures for about 30 seconds. And then we'll also be weaving in some balance work. So as we hold the postures, we will play with some balance as well. So holding and moving. Let's move now with the breath, breathing in, reaching up with the arms overhead. And overhead might mean here in a cactus type shape, might mean a wide V. Maybe they come above your shoulders. So play around with that. See what position of the arms helps you keep a steady mountain, just a taller mountain. This is called extended mountain pose. Yet we still want to feel steady. So if you feel steady as here, those are fine positions for the arms. And then once you feel steady for the arms, we'll add the lifting of the heels, raising up to the tiptoes. So a lifted extended mountain and a little bit of the balance work. Now here you might start to wiggle and shift a little bit. That's fine. The steadiness doesn't mean that we never move. Think of a strong tree that sways a little bit in the wind, but the roots are secure. So allow your roots, the ball of your feet pressing into the ground, lower your heels at any time as long as those roots stay secure. And then when you're ready, lower your arms, lower your heels. So as we play around with our mountain pose and our other standing poses, we'll also be moving the spine in different directions. We'll start with a little bit of a lateral move for the spine, a side stretch. That also adds a little bit of a rotation to it. So I'll mirror you for many of these poses. Take your left foot, cross it in front of your right. Now, if this doesn't feel comfortable, it's fine to keep your legs further apart. And when you cross it in front, it can be further in front. I'm going to keep my legs a little closer together because I can feel stable this way. A little bit less stable than in my two-footed mountain pose, feet side by side, but I can still feel stable and strong here. Breathe in again, so extending in this position, both arms up overhead. And then same arm as the leg you crossed in front, so left arm stays up, right comes down as you reach over to the side. This is the lateral stretch. So as we move into these different versions of the standing poses, turn your attention to your own body, noticing how you feel from your foundation, your feet, your legs, all the way up to the extremities, the extended parts of the pose, and where you feel any stretch. In this case, it might be somewhere in the hips, the IT band, the side lateral. Moving with breath, raise back up, uncross your legs. Finding a stable mountain in the middle. You don't have to hold it long, but restabilizing. And then cross your right leg over front of the left, if that version feels good for you. Again, sweep both arms up and overhead. Right arm stays up, left arm comes down as you reach the lateral on this side. Again, with your feet in this position that we don't usually stand in on a regular everyday basis, you might feel a little wobbly, and that's okay. If we're able to reestablish our steadiness, our firmness within the wobble, that's really important. Next breath, reach up with the top arm, draw your torso back up, uncross your leg. All right, so that was mostly a lateral side-to-side stretch. We'll add a little bit more of a twist. I'm going to turn sideways to show you this. So this is going to be a little bit of a twist with also a little bit of a forward bend. For the forward bend part, where I'm going to bend from is right at the top of where my thighs meet my pelvic joint. So a little hip crease, I'm sending my butt back. So hopefully you can get a good sense of that. You can lean over a little bit or a lot in this posture. I'm going to take my arm closest to the camera, closest to you, and place it on my hip. So this is my left side. And then I'll start to bend the right knee more as I open up to this left side. The left leg might straighten a little more or might stay bent, but I'm really getting a lot of bend in the right leg to give me the space to move in your direction. And my hand is gently resting on the top of my thigh. If I want to, I could slide down more with my elbow, more on the top of my thigh. I also have the option of reaching the top arm up. So if you chose some of those different options, really notice how it feels for you. Does this version still allow you to feel strong? Or did you feel stronger here? Both are fine. Right now, we're really trying to emphasize the strength. So I'd encourage you to choose the place where you feel really strong. And then on a next breath, turn back toward front first, and then lift back up. So rather than twist away from you, I'll turn around. We're going to do the same pose on the second side. So remember, we sent our hips back a little bit, and a little bit of a mini squat or mini chair pose first. You can lean over a little more if that feels comfortable. Start to put your hand closest to the screen on your hip. That might be it's my right. Let that leg straighten a little bit. It doesn't have to come all the way straight. As you bend the opposite leg, you can rest your hand there and turn your chest, your torso in that direction. So you're revolving around the middle part of your spine where your ribs are. That's your thoracic spine. And then remember, once you're in this basic shape, it doesn't have to look like my shape, but your basic shape, you can play around with, does it feel better to lean a little further? How about a different position for your head, your neck, looking up, looking down? Maybe the top arm wants to reach. Maybe that feels like a nice, strong, good stretch. And then when you're ready, turn back toward your legs, push into your feet, your foundation. Use that to lift yourself up. I'm going to keep those wide feet. We'll do a warrior one and a triangle pose standing. One more little balance thing, and then we'll finish out this standing practice. So here your feet are in the wide position, that basically about as wide as you can be and still feel stable. Sometimes for standing postures, people have their feet a lot closer. So when we do the postures like this, again, this is not bad. You can try it that way and see, does that really feel better? It might feel more constricted in your torso as we start to move, so you can practice. I'm going to take mine a little bit wider, and I will mirror you for these postures. So we'll turn our left foot out. So it comes out so it's facing the same direction as the long part of your mat. Right foot, or the back foot, turns in just a little bit, so it's not quite exactly even to the back of the mat. And then just like we did for our crescent lunge, we'll bend that front knee so that it comes somewhere over the ankle. And as you see as I do this, I'm kind of scooching around my foot, and that's me trying to find the place of balance. This is our warrior two shape for our legs. I'm getting a stretch across my pelvis, my inner thighs, my torso, the sides are long, upright right over my pelvis. So warrior two, the classic shape is with the arms out like this. And you can maybe feel the sense of this being a warrior as you look over your front middle finger. Yet this is also warrior two. And this can feel like a really strong superhero warrior two shape. Or this. Or this. Or more the classic shape with palms up. So stand strong in your strength. Another breath or two in your warrior two. And then bring your hands down, straighten your front leg, and we'll move into triangle pose. So you'll notice my legs didn't move. I'm going to try to keep that same length in my side bodies as I tilt my pelvis. So front part, the left moves down, the right moves up. I take my arms out in a T shape, but I don't want to lead with my arms. I'm really leading with the crown of my head. Hopefully you can see my side body staying long. Try to smooth my t-shirt so you can see that. And then I'm not trying to get all the way to the floor. That kind of gives me a curved shape that I don't want. I'm keeping my torso pretty upright here. And maybe I even keep my top hand on my hip. This feels nice. You can see here the triangle in my legs and also the triangle shape here. My arm, my side, my front leg, with my arm like this, triangle here. I think there's something like 19 different triangle shapes in triangle pose. Feel how the energy of the pose builds as you hold it. And then exhale, push into your feet. Remember, that's your foundation. You're rooting into your feet to rise back up. We'll switch the direction of our feet. So now the back foot, your left foot, comes parallel with the short edge of the mat and maybe tucks in a little bit. The front toes turn all the way out in the other direction. So this is our position. This is a position for most standing poses, some version of this. We'll bend your front right leg so that the knee hovers in a stable position somewhere over the ankle. It might be a little bit more forward for you, a little bit less bent. And you can, just like we did at other positions, you can move around and feel how that feels, where that is for you. You can shift your torso around and see sometimes we see a lot of leaning in Warrior Two. Nothing bad. This is kind of like a half Warrior Two, half side angle shape. See how it feels to upright your torso, and does that feel more stable for your lower body with that balance between both feet? And you can always decide to keep your hands completely down, really just feel the energy in the lower body. Maybe this is a day that you're not into working the upper body, and that's good. Maybe you reach out across the chest. I do these cactus arms a lot. I like the openness that it feels across the chest. You can always have hands at heart center, and you can turn this way, you can open the hands. And notice as we play around with all these different hand positions, we are letting the energy build in the lower body. I'm sure we've held this for more than 30 seconds on this side. As you exhale, you can bring your arms down, push into your front foot to straighten this leg, and we'll move into our triangle. Think about the lengthening of your side bodies, that little tilting of your hips and your pelvis. So I'm pretty much in triangle position right now. This is a fairly upright triangle, but I'm starting to go in that direction. My triangle could be right here for today. Could be right here. Or if I feel like I can maintain this space, this length, I might lean into it a little bit more. One of the arm positions I like is taking the back of my hand, pushing against my leg, because I feel like that helps me open up my chest a little bit more to the sky. So I feel nice and strong and stable and open in this version of triangle. Your version might be a little different. On days that my shoulder is bothering me, especially this is my right side from mouse use, sometimes resting a little bit more here feels better. The direction of your neck can change as well. And then push into your front foot, rooting down to rise your body back up. Turn your toes center, heel toe your feet in, and you'll see that means I wiggle my heels, wiggle my toes, heels, toes. Come back in. You'll be about arm's width away from the wall. You're going to take one leg and bring it toward the wall. Just like we did in kneeling, you have the option of placing your toes against the wall or placing the ball of your foot on the wall. You can see how both of those feels. It's likely that if you have your foot more flexed with the toes on the wall, you'll not only get a hamstring stretch, but you'll also get it into your calves. So you can choose. Step the back foot back a little if that feels good. And like we did kneeling, fold from the hip. This is a version of pyramid pose. We're staying pretty upright here. Remember that when we were kneeling, I also said you might want to adjust the position of your leg to see how the stretch feels for you. So if I take my leg a little bit across my body, I still feel a hamstring stretch, but it moves it more out to my outer seat, your IT glute area. You might like to have the stretch a little bit more there. If I slide it outside my hip, I actually lose the stretch there, but for you, I get a little bit more on the inside, the adductors. You can see what you like. It's fine to stay and grow quiet in a pose too. Sometimes that is the best way to practice, to just be here and listen to whatever is going on in your body. After one more breath, we'll switch legs. So step the first foot back, second foot forward. Decide whether you want to put your foot flat on the floor or have your toes resting up like mine are. I think I need the little extra calf stretch that this affords. Might adjust how far away the back foot is depending on what you need. And then slide forward any amount. Here's where using the wall is really convenient. And I'm actually at the point of the wall where it meets the doorway, so I can get a little grip here. That's nice too. Remember that you can stay and breathe. Keeping your attention focused on the area that we're trying to target, somewhere behind the leg, the outer leg, perhaps the inner if you chose to move your leg a little bit more out. But mostly along the back body. We're looking to stretch those areas that are going to assist us in our boat poses. Okay, one more breath. And then you can help yourself up to standing. I'm going to turn to the side. And we'll do a little bit of a chair pose. So for chair pose, we're hinging at this joint of our hips, right where the top of our thigh meets our pelvis. So we're not bending our back in a C curve. It's a little hinge, as if we're seated in a squat, except we're also hinging at our knees and sending our butt toward the back of the room. And our back stays long and elongated. Your arms can go wherever you want. I'm just going to rest mine on my thighs for now. So my chest or sternum is shining forward. It's not hunching over. Sometimes in chair pose we get sort of this action. Open up, let your heart shine forward, even if you're not as deep. So you might go down into a lower chair. You might look for an ottoman. Or maybe you're in a high chair or one of those high bar stools. So whatever height chair you'd like, take a breath, and on your exhale, see if you can lift your heels off the ground like we did in mountain pose. Again, maybe some wobbling or instability here. If you prefer your hands on your hips for more stability, that's fine. They can be at heart center. You'll start to feel your quads kicking in to hold this pose. You can put your heels down at any time. Take one more breath, and then either pressing into your heels or staying on your tiptoes, push up to standing, and then lower your heels if you didn't already. Oh, my calf were kicking in at the end there. Wanted to cramp. All right, so we'll do one more version of that, adding one more balance element. You can do it the same way, or you can add this last balance element. I'm going to start with my hands at heart center. Bend my knees to sink down into my chair. And kind of wiggling my hips, finding what height chair feels good to me right now. Knowing that I'm going to lift the heels. And then the last element is what we call drinking bird, where we take our beak, like we're dipping it into water. It's a little bit of a hip hinge or a forward bend with the heels lifted like I am, or heels down. I'm going to take my arms forward, and as I exhale, I'm going to hinge into my drinking bird, thinking about my beak, my nose dipping into the water. My arms are just going to go down like my wings behind me. Remember, your heels can go down to the ground at any time. Whew, one more breath. And then as I exhale, reverse that. Come back up. And lower your heels. I'm going to turn around so that really my bottom of my tailbone, between my tailbone and my sits bones, I would say, are right along my sits bones, are at the floor. And my feet are probably about a good 2 feet away. You might not have them that much. You might only have them about a foot away. You can play with this, and you can also play with the distance apart that your feet go. So now I'm probably about 18 inches and a little wider than hip width. What we're going to do is we're going to start hinging right here from the hip crease. Your knees can be softly bent. And again, we're looking for that stretch in the hamstrings by sliding our tailbone up. You can use your hands on your own butt, help yourself up a little bit, And that just helped me lean over a little more, keeping my back elongated. And if you like, and if it adds to your stretch, remember, it's not how it looks. We're practicing functionally. So we're looking for feeling. Functional is what the purpose of the pose is, how it feels. The purpose is stretching the back of the hamstrings, not reaching down to the floor. That just makes my back hurt. So you can keep your hands leaning on your thighs. You can slide them down or maybe even hang if it doesn't hurt your back, and it also stretches more in your hamstrings. So you might go like this. Another few breaths wherever works for you. Remembering that anytime you need to or you want to, you might adjust by coming up a little higher. If I come up here, I'm still feeling a pretty intense stretch in my hamstrings. In fact, I can maybe straighten my legs a little bit more, and that'll change exactly where I feel that stretch in my back body. And then on your next exhale, help yourself all the way up.